Welcome to the Cyber Insights podcast, brought to you by the ISACA Greater Washington, D.C. chapter. I'm your host, Jim Wiggins, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Mr. Altan Bulut. And our guest today is Mr. Michael D. Smith. We'll be talking with Michael about the topic Best Practices for Securing Cyber Physical Systems, sometimes known as CPS. Let's get into the episode. Hi, everyone. This is Jim Wiggins, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Cyber Insights podcast. I'm joined today by my esteemed colleague, Mr. Altan Bulut. Altan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great today, Jim. I'm super excited to get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are here today joined by Mr. Michael D. Smith. And he is a cybersecurity professional with over 3 decades of experience and cross-domain expertise. Now, I do need to actually mention a quick disclaimer just to kind of level set, just so that we put it on the record. And that is that any opinions and findings or conclusions and recommendations expressed in the material are those of Mr. Michael D. Smith and do not necessarily reflect the views of DHS S&T nor Battelle Memorial Institute. The material and information discussed that reference S&T is based upon work supported by the DHS S&T under contract. All information discussed is unclassified and references the DHS approved release for Michael Smith's HammerCon 2024 presentation, Counter Unmanned Aircraft Systems, CUAS, Cybersecurity Testing. I do want to quickly give you some background about Michael before we actually bring him on and actually get to talk with him, but he is the recipient of many awards. Some of the most notable ones are the Military Cyber Professional Association Order of Thor at the gold level for 2024, the Battelle Customer Service Award presented at Battelle Solvers Dinner in 2022, the Legion of Merit from the U.S. Army, the Bronze Star from the U.S. Army, and the Information System Security Officer, or ISSO, of the Year at DHS headquarters in 2006. Not to overlook all the other awards and accolades that he's also been given as well, too. Michael, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you.
Jim, thank you. And really looking forward to this podcast. One slight correction on the awards. It's the Customer Success Award, not the Customer Service Award. So customer service was a small portion of that award. But yeah, that was presented at our Solvers Dinner. Jim, yeah, thank you. As you mentioned, I have over 3 decades of information technology experience, including software development, systems and cybersecurity engineering, program management, project management, systems and cybersecurity engineering, risk management framework, defensive cyber operations, instructional design and delivery, and requirements elicitation and analysis. At Battelle Memorial Institute, I'm a cybersecurity program manager where I lead Battelle's Department of Homeland Security Science and Technology Directorate Counter Unmanned Aircraft System, CUAS, cybersecurity testing team. Yeah, I know that you asked me to talk about a little bit about my academic background. I earned a Master's of Science and Master's of Business Administration from Johns Hopkins University and a Master's of Strategic Studies from the U.S. Army War College. I'm also an information systems security professional, certification from the Information Systems Security Certification Consortium, Inc., ISC Squared. I also hold the Certified Secure Software Lifecycle Professional, CSSLP. I'm a retired U.S. Army colonel. As a brigade commander, I commanded 5 of the Army's Cyber Protection Center battalions and 10 cyber protection teams, approximately 5% of the Army cyber protection teams. I established a U.S. Army Reserve Research Unit at the Army Cyber Institute at West Point, New York, and served as the U.S. Army War College faculty instructor and course author. I also served as the Deputy G6 and Chief Information Systems, Chief of the Information Systems Division for the 316th Sustainment Command Expeditionary during Operation Iraqi Freedom, OIF 07-09. And basically, I was the Deputy CIO, and I was responsible for signal and information systems planning and integration for 22,000 soldiers command during the surge. That's a
Awesome.
little bit about my background, Jim.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. So thanks for the overview and the background. We really appreciate it. We're going to talk today about some of your work at Battelle, but I thought maybe what we could do is ask if you could kind of give us just kind of level set, tell us who Battelle is, the company, and kind of the work that's going on there.
Well, thanks, Jim. I want to share an overview of my employer, the Battelle Memorial Institute, or simply Battelle. It's an American nonprofit, private organization
Yep.
that specializes in applied science and technology development. Our headquarters is in Columbus, Ohio. We are very old in terms of our nation being 250 years old. The Battelle Memorial Institute was founded in 1929 by the will of Gordon Battelle. He was a metallurgy baron who died on the operating table of an appendectomy and left his portion of the family fortune to found the Battelle Memorial Institute, Science for the Betterment of Mankind. And his mom, Gordon being an old child, left the remainder of the family fortune. Originally focusing on contract research and development work in the areas of metals and material sciences, now we're an international science and technology enterprise that explores emerging areas of science, develops and commercializes technology, and manages laboratories for customers. We have 29,500 employees in 8 United States Department of Energy laboratories, Department of Homeland Security's under Science and Technology, National Biodefense Analysis and Countermeasures Center. They did a lot of the work on COVID during the COVID epidemic, and the National Ecological Observatory Network, NEON, for the National Science Foundation.
Understood.
So that's a
Understood.
little bit of Battelle as an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I know that you and I have talked offline and that Battelle's done a fair amount of created a number of interesting inventions and technologies. Again, before we get into the cyber side of this, can we talk a little bit about some of Battelle's, contributions just in a general sense to the country and to the world?
Yes, and as I mentioned, science for the betterment of mankind. That's reflected in some of our notable projects. Dry copying, right? Our work led to the creation of xerography and Xerox Corporation,
Okay.
xerographic equipment, and we developed nuclear fuel rods, the first ones for nuclear reactors, including the first nuclear submarine, the USS Nautilus. We worked on optical digital recorders, leading to the first compact disc. We started out during World War II doing armor plating for our tanks, which was essential to us, being victorious against the Axis during World War II. Fluid correction, Snowpake, right? That was the first correction fluid. You can think of it as whiteout for those of us, and we developed that in 1955. For those of us that generation when we actually had typewriters and needed to have whiteout correction.
That's
We
right.
developed the Universal Product Code, UPC, the barcode in 1965, cruise control for automobiles in 1970, photovoltaic cells, the first, for solar energy in 1974, fiber optics, no melt chocolate, and medical advances, including special tubing to prevent blood clots during surgical procedures. And that was 1972, and also reusable insulin injection pan. So we've done a wide variety of things. That's only a small number of the patents and inventions that we've brought to market to promote science for the betterment of mankind.
Got it. Got it. I think Altan's going to throw the next question to you, ask you a little bit about Battelle. Go ahead, Altan.
Yeah. So, Michael, you know that Battelle is a unique organization in the nonprofit space, one of the largest independent nonprofits, as far as I'm aware. Can you tell us more about the mission of the organization overall, like what it stands for, what it hopes to achieve?
Yes, gladly, Alton. Battelle champions the vision of our founder, Gordon Battelle, right, which translates scientific discovery and technology advances into societal benefits. We deliver when others can't by remaining dedicated to developing and deploying world-changing solutions. We use scientific and technological principles to create new innovations that drive our societies and economies forward. And our teams are global thought leaders in applied science, technology, discovery, and development.
Awesome. So maybe if you can expand on Battelle's role specifically in cybersecurity, given that our audience is primarily interested in those areas as well. Like we know that it is a huge entity in that space too. How do you see the institution's role, the broader cybersecurity space overall?
Well, we take cybersecurity very seriously, and we're organized within Battelle to advance cybersecurity and cybersecurity solutions. The cyber business line is located in our National Security Business Unit, and this business line leverages a broad base of cyber domain excellence, multidisciplinary scientific expertise, and world-class research facilities understand offensive attacks and qualify risks to the mission in a zero trust environment. Battelle delivers comprehensive solutions that enhance cyber defense, national security in a rapidly changing global cyber landscape. And within our cyber business line, we have actually have four divisions. We have a mission focused tools, which provides full spectrum dominance in electronic warfare. It helps our customers gain rapid tactical advantage with cyber solutions and combine hardware and software vulnerabilities research, reverse engineering capabilities, and radio frequency engineering. Our expertise ensures operator success on the electronics battlefields and across all domains. Our cyber solutions division, which I'm a part of, provides our customers with cyber solutions to the hardest and most urgent and technically complex challenges the world faces today. With a wide variety of solutions and services, we ensure the nation is protected at all times. Our scientists and engineers are on the front lines deploying cutting-edge cyber capabilities to defend our national security and commercial interests against emerging cyber threats. Within the Cyber Solutions Division, I lead the Cyber Architecture and Advisory Services Group that provides expert services to government agencies and law enforcement on high-level technical cyber strategy. We develop proven cyber solutions for medical devices, ecosystems, critical infrastructure protection, commercial, industry, and consumer products. Our Hardware Systems and Assurance Solutions Division provides hardware security and software security for commercial off-the-shelf components and printed circuit boards, PCBs, to provide and protect those PCBs and ensure that they remain uncompromised. We develop and implement revolutionary microelectronics inspection and security assessments that enhance safety of our nation's military as well as civilian critical assets. And we also have a network assurance, enterprise assurance division as well that's focused in the network realm. Through cyber physical analysis and data analytics that incorporate AI and ML algorithms, we deliver adaptable, practical detection and monitoring solutions that quickly find threats, mitigate them, and stop others from breaching the architecture of those who we support. So that's a little bit of an overview about how we're organized within the Battelle Memorial Institute to support a wide variety of different mission spaces in the cyber field.
Understood. Hey,
Great.
so the orientation that you gave us was really good, both from the organizational perspective and ultimately leading into cyber. Let's talk now a little bit about, we want to get into kind of emerging technologies, governance, compliance, things along that nature. I know one of the systems that we talked about, or that we want to talk about, is cyber physical systems, and that's not something that we normally think about in the cyber domain. At least it's not a major orientation. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and ultimately how it's utilized? For example, maybe at a governmental level.
Yes, Jim. It's very important, and we'll get into this a little bit later in the interview as well, but I'll give you an overview of cyber physical systems. So, as an example, your counter UAS unmanned aircraft system and your unmanned aircraft systems themselves are cyber physical systems. Cyber physical systems security addresses security concerns from physical systems used to maintain and implement cybersecurity solutions. This includes the Internet of Things, the Industrial Internet of Things, IoT and IIoT, industrial control systems, operational technology, ICS and OT. These technologies and connected devices perform a vital role in critical infrastructure, infrastructure protection, protection of the homeland and its borders, and protection of businesses, cities, buildings, and transportation. So that's a little bit of an overview of cyber physical systems and the cybersecurity associated with them.
Understood. Understood. So, what is actually your specific work in this particular space? Can you give us like an example of some of the stuff that like you and or Battelle is doing in this area?
Oh, yes, Jim. And as you mentioned at the beginning, I'm going to reference my presentation at HammerCon 2024, which was reviewed by DHS and approved for release. You can also see a video on it on YouTube. You just look for Michael Smith and HammerCon 2024. My current Battelle team is conducting cybersecurity testing of counter unmanned aerial or aircraft systems. They're being evaluated for purchase by DHS, including testing of foreign companies, CUAS, to be provided or purchased by DHS. Once technology is identified as potentially useful to DHS component missions, full spectrum cybersecurity testing is planned and conducted on hardware, operating system application, software and firmware applications, wired and wireless network packet capture, vulnerability security scans for the software and firmware, penetration testing, cloud environment analysis, if applicable, and mobile device applications, if applicable. We also conduct open source intelligence through non-attributable research to support the testing. Initial cybersecurity testing is conducted, and an initial report is provided to the Counter UAS Federal Program Manager, and a vendor version is provided to the vendor. The vendor is given an opportunity to take corrective action. The system is then retested, and a final test report is produced that reflects the results of vendor remediation. And the purpose of the cybersecurity testing is to identify and verify vulnerabilities, to categorize risks based upon mission impact, and that's very important. It's about mission impact. It's not just running a tool and spitting out results, but it's really understanding what the features and functionality and components of that system are designed to do and how those vulnerabilities impact upon the overall mission. Provide feedback to stakeholders identified by the government program manager. Provide reports and artifacts for system authorization process and to support acquisition decisions, and work with the vendor as directed by the government program manager to remediate vulnerabilities. Those are the vulnerabilities found during initial testing. So it's very important. We're not just doing a compliance exercise. We are actually assessing a complete silicone the system posture of these cyber physical systems, and then working with those vendors to, remediate issues and to make their systems more robust and more cyber resilient.
Yeah, so I want to follow up with the cyber physical system security overall. Uh, First of all, I want to say that that's very impressive, and I think it's like the epitome of being on the cutting edge. Some of the examples that you've given in the involvement in cyberspace, and I want to focus on the challenges within the CPS space that you come across and you have to deal with these times.
Well, given the recent eye-opening events, right, and I would, there's a reckoning over vulnerabilities potentially present through global manufacturing operations, right? I'm going to insert some late-breaking news, right? Just supply chain issues, cyber risks. So we had the major announced breach of Microsoft SharePoint, right? A system that is used by just virtually every private and public sector organization. And they're not unique or alone, right? So we have an obligation to ensure that, where systems are being sourced, not only just from a software and firmware perspective, but also from a hardware perspective, is reliable and trustworthy. And, to quote Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. You have to look at the vendors. You cannot assume any vendor, is, without potential risks in terms of supply chain, whether knowingly or not knowingly, um, you know, unaware, I should say, in terms of knowing their supply chain. Complex and opaque supply chains for commoditized components increase the risk of their weaponization. Manufacturers are reliant on hardware and software originating from untrustworthy sources, compounding the problem. Silicon to systems cyber physical security involves looking at and assessing the integration of logical and physical components, uh, and those components provide new vectors, including attacking IT systems to gain control over critical physical systems for medical, critical infrastructure, life safety, and protection systems. This integration presents challenges in preventing attacks that cause damage, injury, or death. So it's very, very uh, important that we assess these cyber physical systems and identify the risks, use a mission-based risk assessment and risk mitigation process to ensure that these systems are trustworthy and that they're also resilient. So that's kind of an overview of the cyber physical security challenges.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. So, hey, I think you kind of started to answer this next question that we wanted to ask you about, but it was kind of correlated to, the role that supply chain risk management has on cyber systems. Can you expand on that a little bit and talk about maybe kind of some of the methods or the considerations around those two integration ideas to make sense?
Yes, it does, Jim. And it's really about supply chain risk management and its impact on cyber physical systems. There's a tremendous impact. And I would highly recommend that our listeners, check out the extremely valuable resource that MITRE has developed, and that's their supply chain system of trust, SOT. SOT includes three supply chain risks. Those risks are from the supplier, the supply, and service risks. Supplier risks are related to the characteristics of supplier of supplies or products or services and their supply chain. And that may potentially impact customers of those supplies, products, or services, right? So hopefully you're dealing with a trustworthy supplier and one that's not trying to take advantage from perhaps a nation state perspective or take advantage to maximize their profit, right? Because we do live in a capitalistic society, and that's a good thing, in my opinion. But we got to trust but verify. We can't just allow the lowest price, technically acceptable suppliers to dominate the market. Um, Supply risks, risks related to the characteristics of supply product, including their supply chain provenance and pedigree, that potentially impact consumers of that supply, that supply that product. And service risks. Those are risks related to the characteristics of a service, including their supply chain, provenance, pedigree, that may potentially impact consumers of that service. So that's a little bit of the three areas, once again, to summarize: supplier risk, supply risk, and service risk.
Understood. Understood. Um, so it sounds like MITRE's got an interesting framework out there that kind of dovetails with what we're talking about here. Can you spend a minute or so talking a little bit more about some of those elements, specifically the supply risks? I'm sorry, the supply chain risk, the supplier, sorry, the supplier, the supply, and the service risks?
Yes, Jim, and it's a mouthful there, but it's a
Yeah,
really really great model that MITRE's come out with their supply chain security system of trust, SOT. So taking a look at the supplier risks, the financial stability, right? I've seen this many times in my career, right? A company doesn't get paid for some reason, they bid lowest price technically acceptable, they don't have the ability to make their payroll, and that company goes out of business, right? Or maybe they're just mismanaged, right? So you got to really look at the supplier financial stability, right? Their supply chain, if even within, some of their, sub contracted suppliers, right? Are they going to be around? Are they going to, is there a critical component or a part that's assembled into a printed circuit board that may not be available if one of their suppliers has financial difficulties and goes out of business? Supplier organizational security risks, right? Related to this characteristics of the suppliers, personnel, facilities, transport, cybersecurity capabilities, policies, and practices that may affect the potential to resist or withstand malicious actions and impact on their customers. Supplier susceptibility. Those are risks, that may affect the likelihood of them being targeted, compromised, or otherwise adversely affected by malicious actors. And you can look at that as the SolarWinds, right? If you want to get inside an organization, get inside of their software, hardware, supply chain, and just like a Trojan horse, you've ridden right inside the gates of that organization and you have access. So you got to be very, very careful. Supplier quality culture risks, right? Some of these companies are just about making money, right? And they can cut any corner, they're going to do that. And you've got to be very aware of those types of suppliers. So their ability to reliably deliver appropriate quality supplies, products, and services, right? There's various total quality management, TQM. There's various processes out there, ISO processes, et cetera. Are these organizations adhering to those processes? Do they have the right procedures in place? Are they checking with metrics? Do they value and are they willing to pay for those types of quality and building in that quality? It's about culture. Supplier organizational effectiveness of risks to geographical, geopolitical, structural, or operational characteristics of a supplier that affect the potential to operate in an efficient and resilient manner, right? So, the bottom line there, we have, numerous things. I can point back to I believe it was Symantec antivirus issue where their development facility in India was located in a floodplain. They had a flood and therefore it impacted their ability to provide updates and patches to their products. So you've got to really look at, where your suppliers located at. Supplier ethical risks, right?
Yeah.
Are they, this could impact the customers, clients, partners, or market through implicit intent, whether internally or externally driven, to violate legal and business norms to cause harm, right? So at Battelle, as an example, we have, yearly training that talks about business ethics and, what the expectations are per the United States law. Hopefully your suppliers are adhering to that. And if they're not coming from the United States, do they have the same legal requirements? You need to look at that as a leader. Supplier external influences, right? Characteristics that make a supplier susceptible to negative influence or internal motivations or allegiances, nation state context, foreign influences, and the commercial context that this could typically influence a competitor or on a supplier, right? So one of your competitors or one of another nation state perhaps may have an influence to either compromise supply chain or maybe drive the supply chain towards their organization. So you've got to look at that when you're making these decisions. And an excellent book was put out by Ira Winkler about these topics in terms of what the motivations are of nation states. And I'd refer back to that book. Supplier risks. Let's talk about the supplier risks. So malicious taint, right? That's when there's explicit intent by the supplier to whether it's internally or externally driven, to violate legal or business norms to cause harm, right? So that's when somebody is intentionally doing something to the supply. Counterfeit, right? Whether it's it's explicit intent, but it's whether it's internally or externally driven to violate legal or business norms to substitute components that are not what you perhaps contracted for. You got to look at your contracts, but you need to know your hardware specifically to ensure that what you're buying meets your specifications and requirements. In some cases, there may be a higher cost associated with that as well. Hygiene risks, right? That's just the vendor, having poor quality control, maybe having poor security as well. That third party or fourth party, compromise, the resilience, et cetera. Supply availability, right? That's where your supply, or your subcomponents or raw materials may be hampered based upon some geopolitical circumstance or some case natural disasters, right? You've got to think about where their manufacturing or their suppliers or subcontractors located. Is there going to be a typhoon or a monsoon or a tornado that wipes out their facility? Looking at supplier risks or service risks, there's several parts of that. There's quality risk, there's resilience risk, there's security risk, there's organizations, possible insider threat, compromise, and integrity of those services. So I would highly encourage everybody to check out this MITRE SOT model. You can find it at https://sot.mitre.org, and it's under their framework and body of knowledge. So Jim, that's a little bit of an overview of supply chain risks and where you need to look at in terms of supply, supplier, and services.
Awesome. Thank you. I think Altan was going to ask you the next question.
Yeah, so I wanted to shift the focus a little bit on the program management side of things, which I believe you're one of your areas of expertise, Michael. So given that like cyber physical security is a relatively complex and advanced domain, what are some of the core parts of principles, if you will, establishing a program for managing a cyber physical security, especially in a relatively large and distributed organization, to make sure that it is maintained and effective?
Well, thank you, Altan. And I would point everybody towards the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. They state that organizations with converged cybersecurity and physical security functions are more resilient and better prepared to identify, prevent, mitigate, and respond to threats. So this convergence is key and critical. Convergence also encourages information sharing and developing unified security policies across divisions. So as we take a look at that, we need to not be stovepiped in the way we're organized or the way we operate, but we need to have teamwork between traditional information technology and cyber physical, whether it's Internet of Things, industrial Internet of Things, industrial control systems, or other physical systems. Convergence includes coordination that formalizes convergence teams' roles and responsibilities, identifies linked assets, conducts vulnerability assessments that identify security gaps and converge risk mitigation, and establishes a baseline for security operations and incident handling. So it's very important. We don't need a pickup game. When we have a crisis, to try to figure things out. We should be, planning as a team, training as a team, operating as a team, discussing and communicating, who's going to cover which roles and how can we cross-train and cross-pollinate. Variation in computational capacity, system memory, network bandwidth, physical access, upgradability, and other factors among heterogeneous connected cyber physical things, Internet of Things elements, means that any single cybersecurity approach may have a limited application. Instead, tailored approaches with attention to security compositionality are required. CPSs have complex cybersecurity development landscapes, cyber attacks on physical systems, physical attacks on physics and physics-based mitigation for cyber systems. So an example is the breach at Target, where they gained access through, I believe it was the HVAC system, using a USB thumb drive device. We have got to be aware, and we've got to have controls in place, detection, mitigation, incident response that combines both our traditional information technology as well as our cyber physical systems. So those are my thoughts, Altman, in terms of principles, in terms of establishing a cyber physical systems program.
So, hey, Michael, along those lines, you highlighted the target as one possible impact. Are there other examples where cyber physical systems compromise, have occurred that you can know of, and maybe talk a little bit about, from a high level perspective, what the impacts would be?
Oh yes, Jim, and that's just one. I'm going to give you one extremely important example, right? And CISA documented a large foreign shipping company in June of 2017, right? Indiscriminate state-sponsored cyber attack unleashed a virus or worm that halted operations across hospitals, power companies, airports, banks, government agencies, and crippled the global shipping industry for more than a week. Very, very significant impact. The virus was able to penetrate the network of the world's largest container shipping company through a single computer operating outdated accounting software, right? So there's an example as we state, stepping over dollars to pick up pennies, right? You've really got to stay on top of your software, and it's very difficult to make changes. It's very expensive. It's retraining, et cetera. But, you know, without proper hygiene and cyber hygiene and maintenance, it's difficult. Although this large shipping company was not the primary target, the company's global systems were quickly paralyzed, compromising proprietary data and hampering communications. Maritime shipping ground to a halt as this outage isolated 76 ports and 800 vessels carrying millions of tons of cargo. The company's own financial losses exceeded $300 million, and the ripple effects on the global supply chains included impacts to the United States national security supply of vaccines. The total estimated cost and damages exceeded $10 billion. I'll restate that, $10 billion. This is just not hypothetical or theoretical uh, risk impact. This is, the cost of this incident. And the incident is regarded as one of the most devastating cyber attacks in recent history. And participating in many of cybersecurity professional development activities, right? I'll put a plug in for the Information Systems Security Association and the Northern Virginia chapter, as well as ISACA Greater Washington. We were discussing these, and one of the speakers was talking about the key to recovering from this attack was luckily there was an offline domain controller in Africa in a remote spot that they're able to recover. That's not a way to plan and have incident response. So really that convergence that we talked about between IT and physical, really staying on top of knowing what's in your inventory and making sure it's patched and operational, and really looking for those adversaries trying to come in and do you harm. Because $300 million, that's a significant impact, and $10 billion impact is just extremely costly. So, Jim, those are my thoughts in terms of one example of the many, many, many that cyber physical systems compromises and financial impact.
So I want to follow up with that, Michael. As we know, the security of the system lifecycle is one of the critical considerations in the supply chain security management. So how do you think overall the developers and manufacturers of the CPS, like cyber physical system providers overall, should ensure that they can provide their systems securely to their customers or clients overall? What should they think about and establish?
Well, as I would say, Altman, just from my experience as a retired military leader, Army officer, you need to know your people. You need to know your adversaries. You need to know your partners. And manufacturers need to know their primary and secondary, tertiary, et cetera, hardware suppliers, right? They just can't assume getting it from company X. So everything, that was involved in developing this component by company X, all those downstream, as they call it, those subcontracted sub suppliers are providing the best possible, best quality, non-compromised components. They must have an evidence-supported level of confidence that a custom microelectronic components (CMC) devices and its configuration do not contain undocumented characteristics or exhibit unintended behaviors. And I'm going to emphasize this point. Manufacturers must leverage an automated optical inspection tool, AOI, to generate a hardware bill of materials. Battelle, as an example, has a tool called RAICS, RAICS. You can do some research on the internet, but it's one of the many automated optical inspection tools that will give you that automated, hardware bill of materials. You need to know what's inside of your systems, just like knowing the recipe, or you pick up a box of cereal, right, or any food product. It gives you a list of ingredients. You need that for your software. You need that for your hardware. They must utilize CISA's Secure by Design guidance, and that guidance includes integration of cybersecurity throughout the design phase of the hardware and software, and secure configuration by default. An example, the U.S. government, both DoD and DHS, follow DoD's DISA STIGs, and those are guides for hardening your systems. But it's very important. Build in, don't bolt on. You need to think cybersecurity from conception, to disposal, right? You need to have a complete life cycle approach. So those are my thoughts, Altman.
So hey, Michael, great commentary there in terms of, the build in rather than bolt on type of thing. Are there other recommendations that manufacturers of cyber physical systems could follow to build better cybersecurity into their products in addition to the things that you talked about?
Jim, it's very important as we build in, we must use the appropriate tooling, right? So cybersecurity testing tools must utilize NIST and CISA standards. You can build cybersecurity in by following CISA's open source software security guidance. You can also follow you should be following the OWASP secure coding practices. Review and test libraries, including free and open source software FOSS repositories for malicious code and vulnerabilities prior to incorporation into software. And you need to maintain a software bill of materials in standard format. It's very, very important as we're now entering the age of artificial intelligence, machine learning. We've got to be vigilant, right? Our folks, human nature, I don't care what country you're in, is to try to, uh, basically do it with the least resistance, right? To try to make things easier. But we've got to check where we're getting our components from, and we've got to trust but verify. So, just be vigilant on your free and open source software. Make sure you're checking that. Don't assume that your software isn't being written by an adversarial nation and put up on GitHub for your developers to download and make their lives easier, in quotes. Manufacturers must conduct wired and wireless communications testing and analysis that includes full packet capture of network traffic. Communications testing and analysis must include network discovery, network port and service identification, Bluetooth, and near field communication. You've got to test your network connectivity. Understand and analyze the likelihood, the motives, opportunity, and capabilities of any adversary to successfully exploit a vulnerability. And the impact on the mission is a fundamental component of any organizational risk management program. Evaluate and prioritize test results based upon risks defined by the impact of the system and the mission supported and the likelihood of exploitation, right? So you've got to concentrate on the most important pieces. You need to say what is of the greatest value to an adversary, and that doesn't necessarily need to mean a nation state, even a competitor in the marketplace, right? And you need to ensure that those areas are, looked at and hardened and made more resilient and secure first. Manufacturers must develop a cybersecurity training program and provide training to their engineers, developers, and testers. Training must include secure development of hardware, software, configuration management, open source intelligence, operational security, and risk-based vulnerability management, mitigation, and remediation. So just remember that you've got to build in and you've got to train, as we say in the Army, train as you fight. Your folks should be thinking cybersecurity. They should be in that mindset. It shouldn't be an additional sprinkle on some, network or vulnerability scans at the end, or some, software application security testing. It's all important, needs to be included, but it needs to be a mindset, and folks need to be trained across the organization on best practices, processes, and principles. And as I mentioned, our process, my team at Battelle Memorial Institute, provides, references, best practices, risk management, threat modeling, critical mission analysis, and remediation mitigation. So you've got to ensure that you're building those types of processes into your, Silicon system, cyber physical system development. So Jim, that's a little bit of an overview in terms of how to develop and build in cybersecurity into your products.
Understood. Understood. So let's make sure that we kind of close the loop on this aspect of this, and make sure we provide some references. What kind of references are out there that help developers and practitioners assist them as they want to, secure their CPS environments? Does NIST put anything out there? You talked about MITRE. Any other noteworthy references you want to tell our audience about?
Jim, I'll provide just a few of the many. And, obviously, Rick Howard, who's spoken over the years at ISSA Nova, at RSA, et cetera. He has a cybersecurity canon. That's a listing of the most important, most critical books you should be reading for cybersecurity. But my short list in terms of cyber physical systems, I would start with Department of Homeland Security. They're actively involved in cyber physical systems security, particularly in the context of protecting critical infrastructure and national security. DHS's efforts are focused on addressing unique security challenges posed by the increasing integration of physical processes with computing, which creates a larger attack surface for cyber threats. So you want to take a look at DHS's Cyber Physical Systems Security CPSSEC project. And it focuses on developing cybersecurity guidance for critical infrastructure sectors facing CPS challenges. And so you can look at, there's a posting under Science and Technology, CPSSEC, and I would go out to the internet and look at that. Additionally, NIST has some great guidance. I would highlight the NIST framework for improving critical infrastructure cybersecurity. This provides a framework for organizations to manage or reduce cybersecurity risks, including those related to CPS. And you can find that under your NIST website, and the document is nist.cswp.04162018.pdf. So go ahead and look for that. Search NIST for CSWP, and you'll find this guidance. Additionally, there's an executive order 13636, improving critical infrastructure cybersecurity, which addresses cybersecurity risks in critical infrastructure, which often involves CPS. So you can go out there and look for that particular press release. And it is an executive order on improving critical infrastructure cybersecurity. Switching back to NIST, there's also one last NIST publication that I would point you to, and that's NIST Special Publication SP 800-183, and that's the Network of Things, and it provides guidance on the security of network devices, which are often part of CPS. And you can look for that special pub online. That's 800-183. So, Jim, those are a few of the references that I would point you and our listeners to. In terms of gaining more knowledge on cyber physical systems.
So yeah, maybe I can ask the next question here. So Michael, as we all understand that cybersecurity is a very rapidly evolving field and things can change all the time. I wanted to ask, like, what do you reckon for within the next few years? we'll see in terms of changes for CPS, like cyber physical systems and their cybersecurity. Even though, it's hard to predict that future with a total accuracy or anything like that, and keeping in mind that things can change all the time. How do you think things will evolve in that space?
Well, Alton, I think it's going to be a very exciting and rapidly accelerating next 3 to 5 years. Incredible change is happening already within our society, within the United States, across the globe. And the CPS and CPS cybersecurity field is growing, right? I'll give you an example. The Indeed Career Builder states that all business is IT business, right? And I would say all business integrates IT, including IT and cyber physical systems. This highlights the pervasiveness of technology in modern business operations, meaning that technology and information technology are integral to almost every aspect of a business, from its core functions to customer interactions. It's not just about having an IT department anymore. It's about integrating technology into the very fabric of the business. The global cyber physical systems market is experiencing substantial growth with a projected market size of 358.4 billion by 2032. That's an incredible market. 358 billion by the year 2032. This growth is driven by increasing adoption of Industry 4.0, Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence across various sectors. The market is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate, CAGR, of 14.94% between, basically last year and 2032, including, according to a report from SNS Insider. Per U.S. headquartered SNS Insider, which is a market research company that delivers evidence-based strategy for clients seeking growth. So just to restate that, 14.94 growth rate over the next, 8 years, just incredible. Cyber physical systems offer strong career growth potential due to the increasing integration of physical processes with computing and networking. The field is experiencing rapid growth across various sectors like manufacturing, healthcare, smart infrastructure, fueled by the Internet of Things and automation. This growth is creating high demand for professionals with expertise in areas like embedded system, control theory, software engineering, and cybersecurity. That's a little window into the next 3 to 5 years. Alton.
Very
Awesome.
exciting.
Awesome. So hey, we're coming down to our hour, so we've only got a few minutes left, Michael. I thought maybe what we could do is ask if you could kind of summarize and give us kind of the key takeaways around CPS, cyber physical systems, that you think are important for our listeners to kind of uh, you know just be aware of.
Well, Jim, I'd like our listeners to refer to 3 key takeaways in terms of cyber physical systems and cyber physical system cybersecurity. CPS security is a multidisciplinary field requiring expertise in both cybersecurity and physical security. So you need to have a strong background and expertise in both cybersecurity and cyber physical. Yeah. Understanding the unique characteristics and vulnerabilities of CPS is critical for developing effective security measures. So you need to really know your environment, know your systems, and then work from that perspective in terms of developing an effective security measures. And collaboration between different sectors and organizations is essential for addressing the complex security challenges of CPS. So those are my 3 key takeaways. To briefly summarize again, it's a multidisciplinary field involving expertise in both cybersecurity and physical security. You need to understand the unique characteristics and vulnerabilities of CPS prior to developing your security measures. and you need to work as a collective team to address the complex security challenges of CPS.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, Altan and I enjoyed our conversation, Michael, and we learned a lot from you and your cybersecurity focus with Battelle. I guess the last thing we want to kind of ask you is how can our listeners engage with you and learn more about Battelle?
Well, Jim, a great starting point to learn more about Battelle is our website. So I'd point everybody to www.battelle, which is BATTELLE.org. So once again, www period BATTELLE period ORG. And if you're interested in continuing the conversation with me, which I'd love to do, you can access me through my LinkedIn, which is linkedin.com/in/Michael D. Smith Cyber. And I look forward to communicating with everybody. That's LinkedIn/in Michael D. Smith Cyber. Look forward to communicating with everybody and really sharing and continue the conversation and making our systems more resilient and more secure. So thanks again to have the opportunity, Jim and Altan, to discuss this important topic with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're really excited to have you here and thankful for you to come in and share your expertise relative to our audience. Well, everybody, that's going to go ahead and wrap up today's episode of the Cyber Insights podcast. Altan, any final words of wisdom before we say goodbye?
It was phenomenal. I learned a lot, Michael. And again, like, echoing your words, thank you for being on the podcast, Michael. It's great for our community, for people to hear your perspectives and have a little bit of window into how you see these things. Some of these are not exactly at the beginner level, like quite advanced topics, and really fascinating. Well, really enjoyed the conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, everyone. Well, thanks again for joining us. For those of you that are interested in following the podcast, we actually have put up a web page on the ISACA-GWDC website so that you can look at other episodes. That's at www.isaca-gwdc.org/podcast. And that'll redirect you to our YouTube channel where all of these episodes are currently being hosted. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at a future ISACA-GWDC event. And if you want to learn more about the chapter, obviously you want to go out to www.isaca-gwdc.org. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.